Welcome to the first video in the Tipping Point methodology, Unconscious Decisions. During the next few minutes, you will see how you can get others to join you in doing things they have not come up with themselves. The approach is surprisingly easy and secure, but the use of it demands practice. It's like learning how to ride a bike. You can't just learn by watching a video. The approach is a practical use of perhaps the most significant result in research on the way humans work. The researcher was Benjamin Libet, and the result of his 20-year-long research was published in a medical journal in 1991. The unconscious is the sum of all of our experiences, programs, and so forth. We start by splitting the brain into two parts, the conscious and the unconscious. The unconscious consists of all we have seen, heard, felt, or smelled upon this moment. All of our experiences and all of our habitual behaviors. The unconscious consists of about 80 million times more information than our conscious part does. Our research person, whom we are calling Nick, now receives a visual impression. This goes into the conscious and unconscious parts. After about 30 days, the impression is gone from the conscious part, but is still just as clear in the unconscious part. Nick is now asked what he saw and is trying to remember, and now we'll show you how that develops. While Nick is trying to remember, earlier, similar impressions, who are also forgotten, are starting to become present in the unconscious. We start a slow stopwatch in the moment Nick starts his attempt at remembering. His previous experiences are visible in the unconscious, like red dots. The experiences melt together with a yellow square, and together they turn into an orange square with rounded edges. After about half a second, the answer gets to Nick's conscious brain, and he utters what he thinks is the answer. We study what happens during the half second again. The conclusion to this is that the unconscious part makes the decisions half a second before we realize that it has. That is Benjamin Libet's discovery. About 95% of our waking hours, we automatically do what the unconscious decides. It governs the conscious side and not vice versa, because the foundation of decision-making for the unconscious part is so extremely big. The unconscious can produce nearly any argument that fits what Nick wants to achieve. The conscious part sometimes has to wait for the unconscious to find fitting information. Nick then says he is thinking about it. What is amazing about this is that it is much easier than most people think to calculate how the unconscious will react. It follows its programs, and the other videos on this site will illustrate many examples of this. Now we will show you the example that you'll perhaps get the most use for, regardless of if you're a parent, CEO, or minister. In this example, Nick is a person who asks few questions and mainly spends his time being seen, heard, and being right. He gets into arguments with people who disagree with him instead of trying to understand and figure out why they may be right. He refuses to develop and does not in any way wish to see what he will benefit from. He is unmotivated, and that is a development we are now about to turn around. Stop the video here and write down the name of a person who you would like to be given the possibility to develop and utilize their resources better. Do it now. If you do so, quite possibly after the first try, you will be one step further into your efforts for this person. In the video, we continue with Nick. After you've found the fitting person, find his or her nobler motives, the things the person would do for his or her own surroundings if the circumstances allowed. By the person you have chosen not being open to learning, understanding, or listening, but displaying their own excellence, he or she may show that they are being dominated by a need for safety and recognition. See the video on Maslow. Nick is the same way. He asks few questions and spends his time trying to be seen and be right. Now we arrange an opportunity for Nick, and U for the person you have chosen. The requirement for the opportunity is as follows. It has to be so good that the person you have chosen, or Nick, feels a strong urge to fulfill it to the maximum. This should again lead to an effect that we and our surroundings are pleased with. That insists on the following requirement to the opportunity. It has to increase his sense of security and visibility more than any other alternative. In addition, utilizing the opportunity has to be linked to less risk and efforts than all the others Nick knows of. It has to provide some immediate results because Nick is dominated by the recognition the results lead to. The possibility can only be utilized when Nick uses his best qualities, and points 1 and 2 have to be so well formulated that they lead him to doing it. The possibility is shown to Nick, and it flows into his unconscious that automatically mixes together with his nobler motives and his dominant need for safety and recognition. That leads to a change. He is unconsciously motivated, and that won't necessarily trigger the wanted change yet. The unconscious now produces reasons that are coherent to the new opportunity. These mix again with the opportunity the unconscious just received. The sum of all this is now sent to the conscious part, and Nick's conscious does not want it to disappear. He asks to be told how he can learn to get further. Now engaging in Nick's development can lead to big results for everyone because his unconscious is now on board with this process. Nick feels great and says he wants to continue with this. The most interesting part of this development is that in most cases, it's not a result of the thought process or conscious use of will. The reactions came automatically. This process in Nick's head works in the same principle with everybody. If you do not achieve the same reaction with the person you have chosen, you should figure out how you can improve the points 1 to 3 under the yellow square and repeat the process. What advantages do you achieve by choosing this approach? Well, you have to be aware of the best in others and recognize their needs. That leads you to strengthening their self-respect and respect for you. They listen better and find it easier to take the consequences of what they hear. You practice help to self-help, meaning you will figure out how you can contribute to others actually feeling better. That strengthens the self-respect and respect for you even more. You will ask questions and show you are genuinely interested in others and that you want to learn. The way you show humility and respect for the person you are talking to, and that strengthens others' positive feelings towards themselves and you. The next point is that you save a tremendous amount of time because everything happens faster and has a stronger effect. Meetings last half the time and lead to decisions that are actually being followed through. The extra time you'll have, you can put towards investing to learn the 3 points under the yellow square. It becomes a minor investment. And what is the reach? Development of self-respect and respect this way has an almost magical effect. When you know how to do this, you create huge ripples of effects in the area of joy in the workplace, personal growth, economy, home life, parenting, etc. You can affect the development in any level of life.